Okay, folks, happy Wednesday. It's been 4 days or 5 days since we picked up this BMW 2009 BMW R1200 RT-P from the auction. I gave you a synopsis and an assessment of where the bike was at when we first got it here on site. I have since gone through it and done a number of basic maintenance items that I'll go over with you. The bike is in fact running. I'll fire it up for you momentarily. No surprise, but as mentioned, you buy these vehicles as is, where is. If there's a problem that they don't know about and they don't tell you about, tough luck for you. It is what it is. So the bike does in fact run. There is some great news. We did find out what the mileage on the bike was. It's only 7,000 miles. That's absolutely nothing for a BMW motorcycle. And lucky for us, the motor does purr like a kitten. It runs perfectly, but that being said, it has a driveline issue. And specifically, I believe that the friction disc in the clutch is bad, which on most motorcycles would be a very minor issue. Clutches are actually pretty easy to service on motorcycles, but this isn't just any motorcycle, it's a BMW. I don't know what those Germans were thinking, but it's really difficult to get to the clutch on this bike. I will post some future video of this bike being torn down, but it literally cuts the motorcycle in half to access the clutch components. So right about the middle of the bike will literally be the clutch, all of the swing arm, the rear subframe, everything has to come off this bike. So it's not technically a very difficult job to do. A lot of nuts and bolts, a lot of components have to come off the bike, and it's fairly straightforward, but it's just a lot of work. And you'll see when we get it stripped down that how much has to come off the bike in order to get that clutch rehabilitated. We went through and did the basic maintenance on the bike. So it has fresh oil, a fresh oil filter, a fresh air filter. It has brand new factory specified NGK plugs. This is a 2-spark setup, so there's actually 2 spark plugs on each head. There's one right here on the top, and then there's another one up here at the bottom. As pointed out in the initial video, there was a substantial amount of sludge on the throttle body here. That's been cleaned up, and as you can see, we refitted the throttle body and put a nice high-tech clamp on there to cinch it all down. So that is corrected. I did notice that the plugs on this head were a little bit fouled, and that would be explained by the air that was probably getting in through that boot. Obviously, we put a battery in it. Walmart special. It's an AGM battery. That's basically an OEM factory battery. I'm going to go ahead and get the bike fired up for you and show you the best news that I've gotten so far is the bike only has 7,300 miles on it. That's just nothing for this bike. These bikes are known to go well over 100,000. I've actually seen them with over 200,000 miles on them. They're very robust machines, so it's barely broken in. So I'm really happy about that. Got a good solid motor on it, and it's going to be well worth the time and energy to get the clutch corrected on this bike. Fires right up. It runs very smoothly and quietly. The clutch is making some noise. It chatters a little bit, but obviously we'll be correcting that. And I do believe that we have a failed fuel level sensor as well, so that will also be something that we'll look at after we get the clutch corrected. So bike runs strong. As I thought, the emergency lights, at least on the front, do work. Again, I'm not that crazy about it. I'm certainly not that crazy about somebody having this bike and riding around with the emergency lights intact. And I'm a little disappointed that they're blue. It would have been super cool if they were just plain white strobes. That would have been of some use to, possibly like I mentioned before, maybe a funeral escort or a security company, that kind of a thing. But with blue flashing lights, they're only of use to a law enforcement agency or personnel, and just not any kind of a good idea to be running those on a public thoroughfare, and I definitely won't be doing it. In fact, as I mentioned, I think I probably will disable them. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass to pull them off, but I may actually do that as well. So So as mentioned, we went ahead and changed the oil filter, air filter, spark plugs. Bike runs perfectly. So we're going to dive into the clutch here. Starting today, we're going to start disassembling the bike. It's a lot of work. It's going to be a couple of days process to get the bike disassembled and get the new clutch disc in it. I'll make the point that you buy these bikes as is, where is. It's not a huge surprise. I was told that there was possibly some driveline issues with this bike. In fact, they mentioned that on all three of the ones that were at this particular agency. So not a huge shocker. Again, I didn't pay much for the bike. Even with the clutch and everything else I've done to it, economically, it's still going to be a huge winner. And I'm looking forward to the bike being up and running. My original goal was to have a riding bike for my personal use, and that's still the plan. I mentioned in the first video we were wondering about the fuel pump. These have been an issue in the previous RTPs. We did bench test this pump. It does work. This is the pump that came with the bike. It is working properly. So once again, you know, if you think you can make $1 million selling these auction cars and bikes, knock yourself out. But be forewarned, if you don't have a lot of experience, keep that money in your pocket. It is a job. It does require knowledge, resources, intuition, mechanical aptitude. Even if you can't do the work yourself, you need to be knowledgeable enough to be able to properly hire and people to do the work for you and know what you should be paying for services and parts and whatnot. So it's a lot of fun if you have the ability and knowledge to do it, but just be forewarned, you do occasionally get bit in the rear end on some of these vehicles. So we will keep you updated. We'll go ahead and get started tearing this bike down, and I'll check back in a couple of days and let you know where we're at. If you like what you're watching, go ahead and subscribe and like, and I'd love to hear some comments. Best of luck to me on this unit, and we'll check back with you in a couple days. Thanks again for watching.